all together.
Hello, and welcome to Covert Castaway. I'm Holly.
Je suis Stéphane.
Join us as we share what we learn and how we're making the transition to liveaboard cruising. Well, we are in Melbourne and
Melbourne, Australia. Down under.
Yeah.
Close to the Antarctic.
Well, not super close, but
it feels close.
when you look at a map, yeah.
But it's 31 degrees Celsius right now.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
So it's warm.
So we are excited because we want to give everybody an update, and also just we want to, we don't have our mic, so hopefully the audio is okay. We're just doing it straight through the computer, so we'll see how this goes. So the exciting update is our boat is in its molds.
Yeah, probably. No, we signed probably like earlier, but like a year plus from the time.
Yeah.
So.
From the time we signed the contract, you mean?
Yes, I don't remember when we signed it. I mean, more than a year, but.
A year and 2 months, yeah. Time flew by, and I think the next few months will fly by. So we're supposed to get it at the end of
8 months.
July.
Yeah.
Before France goes on holiday.
A little earlier than it'll be a little faster than the regular baby.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
Well, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. So it was funny because we were like, oh, when's the boat going to be going into the factory? And they were like 2 weeks, and 2 days later they sent us pictures. So I don't know. That was the fastest 2 weeks ever. So anyway, we're excited about that. We have also been in Melbourne for a few weeks. I've been here 3 or 4, and you joined a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, something like this. And so the weather's been kind of crappy, and suddenly it's like 95 degrees today and super hot. So.
It's like on the weekends, it's like
it can be nice.
Sunday is last weekend was that. Saturday, Sunday is warm. Mm-hmm. This weekend is really warm, and then it goes back to more normal temperatures.
So we've been strolling around. Our feet hurt a little bit yesterday. Walking around, went to the botanical gardens, and the night before that we went downtown. But we're also excited because this week we get to hook up with the O'Kellys, who are also here.
Ooh,
that's exciting. So we'll get to meet them in person. Anyway, so let's talk a little.
Yeah, never met them in person. You talked to Megan via the podcast.
Right, and then they stayed at our house in Tahoe, which was cool, and he crashed his drone.
And then he will take us and them coming to Melbourne, Australia.
To meet up, yeah. We literally live 2 states from each other. But okay, so let's talk a little bit about our outstanding decisions and some of the discussions we've been having. So the exciting decision we made was the net on the
bowsprit net.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of like the gunboat look, so the net actually extends out.
Yeah,
it's like super cool.
But did we ever mention our final decision with the carbon crossbeam?
No,
we struggled.
Yeah, because it ended up being like some crazy. Like the number was already crazy, and then they over $100,000, and then they came back with like a more crazy number, and we're like, yeah, no, we're not.
Well, not more crazy. It was more if you wanted the net. Yeah, that was like he was adding up some more, and then because you put the net, you need the anchor to be recessed.
It's just snowballed.
So that was adding some more. So Holly wanted the net.
I wanted the net. And so I guess the good news is the compression beam, which is a carbon composite, I guess. It's not fully carbon.
Glass and carbon. Carbon reinforced in some areas.
Yeah, something like this. It's being painted black, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. The big difference between the 52 and the 55 is when you get the carbon crossbeam on the 55, you get couple benefits. Obviously, you'll save weight. You'll add probably some rigidity to the front of the boat, but you have a longer bowsprit. Mm-hmm. So that benefit is that you can put more sail area. So for the 52, it's a little harder to kind of, I guess, negotiate with yourself because, yes, you will still get the weight benefits. You will get the more the structural kind of benefits too. Although I'm sure the other one is perfectly structurally it's fine.
Stiff, yeah.
But the bowsprit, the regular compression beam, is basically as long as the carbon bowsprit on the 55. So it's
there's no benefit to get more sail area.
Yeah, the attachment point is not as far all the way to the tip. It's a little further back, but you don't get a drastic kind of increase, between the regular compression beam and the carbon cross beam. So there is that, and obviously you save a lot of money.
A lot
of money.
A lot of money.
And when you come to the end of the selection process, you've
spent it all.
You spent a lot of stuff in the safety bucket.
Yeah, everything keeps going into safety.
What was the carbon bowsprit, the safety feature?
I don't know. I don't remember. Everything started going into safety, but anyway.
Yeah. So that's for that. So now, we have the option to add this bowsprit net. So what will be really cool will be like in flat water.
You can sit on the net. It's cool.
You can be like, you can have your little like Titanic moment.
Well, hopefully not.
Hopefully
Why would you say that?
No, you're thinking about the bad moment. I'm thinking about the good moment when you're like as far forward of the boat as possible, nothing in front of you. You can sit there, be close to the dolphins.
Okay.
So that's a
good part.
The priceless moment.
So we're still struggling a little bit with the downwind sails. So where are we with all that?
We're getting closer. It's been really helpful to talk to North directly, but it's all this is not a black and a white decision, and there is no you're trying to optimize your sail plan, and unless you're like a racing boat and you have like as many sails as you want and you have a crew and you can change those all the time, then there is no compromise, I guess. But here you're trying to find an optimum solution with the least amount of sails, and but the priority basically is we're trying to optimize downwind VMG in light air and in strong wind. So that's definitely the priority. So and we've established that we're not going to use a symmetrical spinnaker, at least.
I don't understand, because they did the arc, and the boat, Emilio's boat, was able to go with that spinnaker, and he just went in a straight line, and he got there like he was second after the
that's it's like taking a big shortcut. Like, we will need to talk to both Outremer 55 that just did the arc, and definitely we know that on Catharsis they have a symmetrical spinnaker and they have a downwind gennaker, and I would not. For sure, they flew there. You can see in the straight line, and it looks like they flew the symmetrical spinnaker, of course. And I'm not saying it's bad. It has the advantage that if you're in strong winds, like I don't know exactly, but then how much wind, but then you'll probably catch the waves and surf, and then you'll have great VMG if the waves are going in the direction of where you want to go. And but if you're in lighter air, at some point it's just going to be a drag. So that solution is probably good. It seems like downwind at night for squalls, people drop the main, put this up, and they don't worry about it. So that's okay. From that the sail is like strong enough. It's not too big, but when squalls come, then the boat can handle it no problem. And maybe we'll come to that conclusion after we cross, or maybe if we can, maybe we'll shoot an email to Emilio and the other 55, I forget the name, and kind of get their feedback. And but that's also just across the Atlantic. There is also different body of water and different conditions. So right now, we are still going to go with the option of not going asymmetrical. So we're leaning strongly towards an A2. So the A2 is going to be a pretty big asymmetrical spinnaker. Dimension, just to give you a reference, will be about 200 square meters. We should be able to keep this sail up to 20 knots true wind speed. So that's going to be, and we should probably be able to.
And that's the one we would just use regularly, like in regular wind, not in.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's 20 and less. Now, for comfort, we might, not use this one. It depends on the sea state and stuff, but. Basically, anything that's going to be 10, 15, 18 knots, probably, yeah. And then we should be able to go as low as 160, 165, maybe if we put it on the upwind bow.
Mm-hmm.
So
what are we using? What are we using? Like heavier wind?
So yeah, once we get to the 20 and plus. So right now we're leaning towards what North call code 65, which is basically a downwind gennaker. So this one will go down from like 200 square meters. Obviously, it's different shape, but 200 square meters to 148 square meters. So quite a bit less of sail area. But because this one, so I didn't mention, but the A2 will be on a sock. So when we need, if you get into the 20 plus and suddenly you need to bring it down, it's going to be a little bit more work versus the code 65/ downwind gennaker. This one will be on a furler. So that's going to be a sail that is going to be easier to keep in 20 plus knots because if we need
because of the furler.
Well, because of the sail area, the shape. But if we need, at least from a comfort level, it'll be easier because if we now go into like too much wind, then we can furl it fairly quickly, as opposed to go forward and put the sock down. And especially if So and then the next step will be if you have too much speed or too much wind. I mean, you will reef the main, one reef, two reef. And then you will be able to sail these so at night in squalls. The one thing that I've been struggling with is so we have the staysail and Genoa. So the Genoa will be able to sail it all the way down to 90-degree true wind angle. But once we pass that 90 degrees, it's not going to be, the speed is going to go down. The performance is going to go down. And then so the gap between our Genoa, so from 90-degree true wind angle to, the code 65 or the A2, there will be a gap. And so it looks like the code 65 might be versatile enough that in light air, we might be able to sail it as high as 95 true wind angle. So it'll basically complement the Genoa being on the 90 degrees. So that should bring us up like to about 50 apparent wind angle. So in light air, we should be able to do that. So right now, we're leaning towards just two downwind sails, code 65 and an A2. And
good, because their sails are ridiculous, right?
What?
They're expensive.
No, not those sails, not the downwind sails.
No.
The it depends what material you pick, of course. But the flat sails, sure, between the main, the Genoa, those are big sails, and the staysail, and we have them in 3DI, so it's really like high tech. I mean, of sail making on a mold, and we talked about visiting the factory. It's rather impressive. So that's really like the highest quality sail design. So you pay premium for that, but we feel good with their ocean material. that they will be able to they'll be able to last longer. And but the downwind sails are more standard materials, and so the pricing I've seen is more equivalent to other sail makers.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that's where we are at today. This is
on the sails. Yeah. So there's two other things. There's the reefing hooks.
Yeah. So we have decided to go with the reefing hooks for the different reefs. If you're not familiar with that, you can Google like reefing hooks. There are some, for example, from Carver.
So what's the general principle?
The general principle is, well, there are a couple benefits, but usually you have a line and it's attached on the boom. It goes up to the clew, to the reef 1, 2, and 3, and then it goes back down, and then it goes all the way through the boom and back to the cockpit, and then you can lower your main halyard, then take the reefs and then retighten the tension on the halyard. So that's the general principle. Those lines, they tend to, obviously, they're up there in the air the whole time, and those are big lines, so they are like moving back and forth, and so we want to prevent any kind of chafing on the nice flat sails. Of course, you can add the protection on the sail to prevent that, and so that's a good option.
So what do the hooks do?
Well, basically, instead of like having a line that brings the clew on reef 1, for example, close to the boom, you have a hook with two lines, one to hook it up through the clew. So you'll have a loop there, and so there will be basically a small dynamite line that you have to set it properly prior to, do some testing. But once it's done properly, then we should be able to lower the mainsail, use that line to hook it into that loop that is attached to the clew. And another advantage, it's there won't be any compression through the beam, and it'll be a very simple setup once it's been tested. So
I just want to give you my 2 cents on this. So I couldn't really understand what the benefit was, other than chafing and the potential for that. But I think what you had said too is based on some people you talked to. It also helps with that weird sound that like constantly goes on, which is a huge benefit because that drives me crazy.
That's true. That was your decision.
Yeah, that was why okay, I'll go for that.
I was talking to Oli for weeks, and one day I said, oh yeah, that would also help with those like noises.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, that's fine. But I guess the thing is that you have to really fiddle with it to get it right, and you have to have the patience to do that when you set it up. So it's one of those things where you have to go in eyes wide open and know you're going to spend time getting that right. Once it's and it might take the first few months or whatever. Otherwise, you're going up there and you're trying to manually fix it, and no one wants to go and do that. So I think that's the thing is, if you have the patience and you want to get it right, it actually ends up being simpler long term, better for the boat, and less noise. If you don't have the patience to fiddle with it and get it right, then it may never work. Yeah. So
if you're not a tinkerer,
idea. Yeah. So
forget about it.
So I'm pretty confident you're a tinkerer. So you better get that right.
I know that I need to make sure those hook
really work
when it's going to be like 25, 30 knots of wind, and we need to reef it. Better hook.
Yeah, because I now know how to do my own reefs, and I don't want to like deal with all that crap. So. Yeah, so that's kind of the thing. I think we're also trying to understand.
I think it's like any boat option. There's never like 100% positive. It's always trade-offs.
But it's just so funny because like one of our principles is simple, and this will be simple once it's set up. It's just not simple to get it started. So I'm having a hard time with that. But anyway, having less noise is good.
The good thing what it'll do is we'll have plenty of reefing practice because we'll want to check those.
Oh my God.
So
that's true.
It'll be good for that.
Okay, and then I think there's another decision on the furling drum or the rigid drum or whatever?
So yeah, another option that I've been looking at is instead of having those clunky aluminum furlers that we've all seen or used to see, you have, and it comes from the racing world, but it's now being adopted on the performance side for performance boats. It's to replace this with a structural headstay, and so the aluminum furlers is just, when you look at it, it just looks like old technology that works.
Wait, so is this a performance thing or a vanity thing? Like, how would you describe it?
No, it's at first it's like, when you look at mechanical things and you're like, this thing is clunky. And I'm looking at every time, you put a Genoa on that, it's a big sail, you go upwind, you have like strong apparent wind, and then you go look along the line of the aluminum furler and you see the bend, and you're like, ooh, and then where it attaches, it somehow has to unbend. And then you look at this and you're like, oh man, this just doesn't look good. It kind of, you're waiting for it to break.
So you're not confident in it. Okay.
Yeah.
So this one, so describe for people who maybe never seen one. What does it do?
It's basically a big aluminum tube, and at the bottom you have a furler. So the sail wraps around this aluminum tube. The advantage of it is, if you want to furl it a little bit, you can take like a couple turns or more. Like on a previous boat, we had reefing points. So you had like a little red dot and you could do reef 1, reef 2. And, so the sail shape is not great, but you can reef your head sail. When you use the structural head stay, it's all or nothing.
Which doesn't sound like a benefit to me.
So, like I said, it's all trade-offs. So you just unfurl it. The nice thing with the structural headstay is just like one basically dynamite line, like super, super strong, because it's also holding, that's why it's called the structural headstay. It's also holding the mast. But you can furl your sail around this. So it's lighter. So you want the weight high up to be as little as possible, and that's why we went with a carbon mast, and that's why we're going with those high-tech sails. And so, but then we have this clunky old design stuff, and so anyway, that's the disadvantage. Well, there's two. One is the price. And two is the maybe three. Two is the fact that it's all or nothing. You unfurl it or you furl it. There is no reefing your Genoa. And three, because it's a high-tech line basically, so preventively you have to replace it every so often, but you don't have to take the mast down. So you basically get a new line that goes between the furler and the attachment of the mast, and then you replace that. And just like any textile, like the shrouds or anything, you have to do preventive, the dynamite loops, you have to do preventive maintenance. So on the performance side, well, it's lighter. It's obviously the airflow, instead of having this bigger aluminum tube, that it's just going to have a better entry for the wind around the sail. But it looks more like more modern to me, like evolution of that, major evolution.
Yeah.
So, but it's also, like I said, the price point is not cheap. So we'll have to make a decision on that.
Any other things outstanding, like big decisions? Not big, but sort of still hovering over us, because there's a zillion tiny decisions. I guess while you're looking,
well, there's the art that we have to.
I was just going to say,
yeah.
So now, so we're sitting here wondering if we like our logo to put on the bow of the boat, kind of like we did before. It's just that this boat's a little more sleek and
a lot more sleek
than the Fountain Pajot. So we're trying to understand if like it matches the new boat, but I think it can. because we tried sort of fooling around on Canva with some other things, and it just, I don't know. I think I think we both really like the name, and we really like the artwork we did originally. So we're trying to make that work. If anybody has any opinions, that'd be awesome. But one of the things I was thinking about today was doing, maybe we did our decal in kind of a, what was it? It's sort of like a transition from like dark gray to lighter gray. So it had this kind of, it wasn't like a solid color. So I was thinking of maybe doing a decal that was a little more, not full on silver, but they do have them that are kind of metallic, and that might look cool. So I don't know. That's what we're kind of thinking about. I just feel like I'm so attached to the other logo that I like it, and I think they took it off the old boat, the new owners, so it doesn't really exist anywhere.
Oh, even if it existed.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then, well, we were also leaning towards, I don't know, fuchsia colors.
Yeah.
Color.
Because of the spinnaker would be super bright pink, and I don't know, not in the existing logo, like if we were just going to do something else. So I don't know. I'd love to get people's thoughts on it, and maybe in Instagram we'll post a couple options we have, and people can tell us if we're crazy. I don't know. It's hard for me. It's hard for me because I don't have any perspective, because now I've grown attached to the logo, and I'm trying to understand if it fits the boat. I think it does if it's like in a sportier color or something. I don't know. What else? What other decisions?
No, I mean, we've made all the besides what we just talked about, and I think I was also saying structural headstay, but the terminology is structural furling headstay. So if you Google that, not structural headstay. No, those are the major decisions we still have to make.
And it's been cool. We had met someone through Outremer Week, a listener, Neil, and he lives just like an hour down the road from us. So we rented a car, and Neil and Kate let us stay at their house, and they took us on a little boat ride. It was really awesome, and Neil and Kate are getting a 55 about the same time that we're getting the 52, and he's really into sailing and has been racing, and so you guys have been able to compare notes and stuff like that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. When I always love that part of the cruising lifestyle is you meet people somewhere in the world, like so we met like on Mud, and then for some reason we're here in Melbourne, and we're
really
meeting,
cool.
And then we'll meet again, and I'm sure we'll spend quite a bit of time in Lagon Mud because they're getting their boat a month before.
It's just so cool to know that there's people all over the world, and you only met them because of the boating, and you actually have so much in common. And then we later went to a dinner party, and we realized, okay, we didn't have as much in common with these other people we knew, just because they're not through boating. It's just a different context. So different
topics of interest. And then through the Sauna 47 group also, so we know Phil, and then and
Cecilia, and they're here in Melbourne.
So we're going to meet next weekend. So that's
so pretty cool.
And then we realized, like, during our cruising in the Med, we've met quite a few Australian.
A lot of Australians, actually. Yeah, it's crazy.
Some from here, some from Perth. I don't know, maybe some from Sydney. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So, big cruising sailing community.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, that's the update from Melbourne. And we'll be here for another couple weeks, like I said, and then we fly back for the holidays, which should be fun. And we also were able to see the boat, hull number 1 just became a boat because the deck got put on this past week. So it's really cool to see our boat, like the first version of our boat.
Hull number 1.
Number 1. And I think the thing
and then also big relief because you have the hull, and it's a big boat. And then you have the deck.
The deck mold. And it's different molds, yeah.
And when we saw it last summer, like, and that's humongous.
And you're like, is it going to fit?
Yeah, and somehow, like, you know, you have to put those two pieces together, and there's so many intricate parts with the steps, the shape of the hull, this and that, and everything has to fit perfectly. And it looks like it was a success.
Yeah.
Thanks to, I guess, all new technologies and computers and stuff. But still, you know, you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. So
we're all kind of crossing our fingers because it would just caused a big pile up, right?
Yeah.
So
I imagine Outremer was probably the engineers in the design office who were like, oh, and the people who build the mold and everything, like, you know, if it doesn't fit, like, who's to blame? But so success. So that's good.
Yep. So exciting times. We're getting started and the countdown has begun. We'll also be posting weekly photos as the boat kind of comes along on Instagram and Facebook. So follow us there. And if you have any comments or give us any feedback on the artwork situation or anything else, you can send us an email at sailingawent@gmail.com. Fair winds for now.
Bon.
Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, like, or share with another covert castaway. Fair winds for now.